You're a worthless failure, Daniel. You always have been and you always will be. My father's words echoed through the living room of my childhood home, sharp and final. My mother stood behind him, arms crossed, nodding in agreement. My younger brother Kyle sat on the couch, smirking. My sister Melissa looked at her phone, not even bothering to acknowledge the conversation. They'd called this family meeting to tell me I was no longer welcome, that I'd embarrassed them for the last time, that they were done with me. My name is Daniel Reeves, and I'm 32 years old now, but this story starts when I was 23, standing in that living room, being told I was worthless by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I just dropped out of business school, not because I was failing, not because I couldn't handle the work, but because I'd been offered an opportunity that I knew in my gut was going to change my life. A startup, a tech company that 3 of my classmates were launching. They needed someone who understood both the technical side and the business side, someone who could bridge the gap. They'd asked me to be their 5th co-founder. No salary for the first year, just equity and the promise of something big. I'd said yes. My family said I was insane. "You're throwing away your future for some fantasy," my father had said when I first told them. "You're 2 semesters away from graduating, 2 semesters, and you're going to quit for a company that doesn't even exist yet?" I tried to explain the technology we were developing, the market opportunity, the investors who were already interested, but he didn't want to hear it. Neither did my mother. "Your father worked 30 years at the same company to provide for this family," she said. "And you can't even finish 2 more semesters of school? It's disrespectful." Kyle had just graduated with his engineering degree. He'd already accepted a job at a prestigious firm, starting salary $85,000. Melissa was in law school, top of her class, already being courted by major firms. And then there was me, the dropout. The failure, the embarrassment. That family meeting happened on a Sunday afternoon in March. My father delivered his verdict like a judge. "We've discussed it, and we've decided that until you go back to school and finish your degree, you're not part of this family. We're cutting you off financially. You're not welcome at family events, and frankly, we'd prefer if you didn't contact us at all. You've made your choice. Now live with it." I looked at Kyle, hoping for some support. We'd been close as kids. But he just shrugged. "You brought this on yourself, man. Should have just finished school." Melissa didn't even look up from her phone. My mother's face was stone. My father stood there with his arms crossed, waiting for me to leave. So I did. I walked out of that house with nothing but my car, my laptop, and about $3,000 in my bank account. I didn't cry. I was too shocked. Too numb. The first year was brutal. The startup operated out of a cramped office space that was basically a renovated warehouse. No heat in winter, no AC in summer. We worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I lived in a studio apartment that cost $900 a month, which was cheap for the Bay Area but still stretched my non-existent budget. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I wore the same 5 outfits on rotation. I didn't go out, didn't socialize, didn't date. Every ounce of energy went into building this company. My co-founders became my family. Marcus, brilliant software engineer who could code in his sleep. Lisa, marketing genius who understood consumer psychology better than anyone I'd ever met. David, operations mastermind who could solve logistical problems that seemed impossible. And Jennifer, our CEO, who had the vision and the charisma to make investors believe in us. We were broke, exhausted, and running on fumes. But we believed. The product we were building was a B2B software platform that helped mid-sized companies manage their supply chains more efficiently. It doesn't sound sexy. It's not social media or gaming or anything consumer-facing. But the market was huge, and the existing solutions were outdated and overpriced. We knew we could do better. 6 months in, we landed our first client, a manufacturing company in Ohio that took a chance on us. They paid us $20,000 for a 1-year contract. We split that money 5 ways and felt like millionaires. By the end of the first year, we had 15 clients. Revenue was growing. We were nowhere near profitable, but we were proving the concept worked. We raised a seed round, $750,000 from angel investors who saw the potential. That money let us hire 3 more people and move into a slightly less terrible office space. I paid myself a salary for the first time, $36,000 a year. Barely livable, but it was mine. I thought about reaching out to my family, telling them things were going well, but every time I pulled up my phone to call, I remembered my father's face, the disgust, the certainty that I would fail. I decided I'd wait until I had something undeniable to show them. Year 2, we grew to 60 clients. Revenue hit $2 million. We raised a Series A, $5 million led by a venture capital firm that specialized in enterprise software. We moved into a real office, hired 20 more people. I increased my salary to $60,000, still below market rate for what I was doing, but the equity was the real price. By year 3, we had 200 clients across 15 states. Revenue was $12 million. We were profitable, actually profitable. We raised a Series B, $20 million at a valuation of $80 million. My equity stake, which had started as 20% of nothing, was now worth $16 million on paper. On paper, not liquid, not real yet, but real enough that I started to let myself believe this might actually work. I still didn't contact my family. Part of it was pride. I wanted to wait until the success was so massive they couldn't deny it. But part of it was fear. Fear that even with everything I'd accomplished, they'd still find a way to diminish it, to make me feel small. I followed them on social media from a distance. Kyle had gotten engaged to his college girlfriend, Amanda. They looked happy in their photos. Perfect couple, perfect life. Melissa had graduated law school and joined a major firm in Chicago. Starting salary, $190,000. My mother posted about them constantly. So proud of my successful children. Notice the plural. Children, not child. Because as far as she was concerned, I didn't count. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. Year 4, everything exploded. We landed a massive contract with a Fortune 500 company, a 3-year deal worth $18 million. Other major companies took notice. Within 6 months, we'd signed deals with 4 more Fortune 500s. Revenue for the year hit $55 million. We raised a Series C, $75 million at a valuation of $300 million. My equity was now worth $60 million on paper, and companies were starting to approach us for acquisition. Big companies, tech giants who wanted our technology and our client base. We took meetings, but weren't ready to sell. We were growing too fast, and we believed we could build something even bigger. But those conversations made something clear. An exit was coming, maybe in 1 year, maybe in 3, but it was coming. And when it did, I'd be wealthy. Actually, truly, set for life wealthy.
Year 5, Kyle's wedding was announced. I saw it on social media. Destination wedding in Napa Valley. 200 guests. Weekends-long celebration. The date was set for October, which was 8 months away. I stared at that post for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. They'd made it clear I wasn't family. Why would I even want to go? But another part of me, the part that was still that 23-year-old kid who'd been called worthless, wanted them to see, wanted them to know they'd been wrong. Around this time, acquisition talks got serious. A major tech company, one of the biggest in the world, made an offer. $420 million, all cash. The deal would close in 4 months if we agreed to terms. We negotiated, back and forth for weeks. We got them up to $480 million. My 20% stake would be worth $96 million before taxes. After taxes, around $52 million. Life-changing money. Set my great-grandchildren up money. We signed the term sheet in June. The deal would close in September, pending due diligence and regulatory approval, which meant it would close about 3 weeks before Kyle's wedding. I made a decision. I was going to that wedding. Not to cause a scene, not to rub their faces in it, but to show up, to exist in that space, to prove that I'd survived their rejection and build something anyway. I didn't RSVP, I didn't call ahead, I just decided I'd go. The acquisition closed on September 15th, $480 million. The money hit our accounts 2 days later. I sat at my desk and stared at my bank balance, $52,347,812. I'd started with $3,000 and a dream 5 years ago, and now I was wealthier than I'd ever imagined possible. I called my co-founders. We met for dinner at the nicest restaurant in the city. We'd done it. We'd actually done it. Marcus was crying. Lisa was laughing. David kept saying, "This isn't real," over and over. Jennifer raised her glass. To the crazy ones who believed when no one else did. We clinked glasses. I thought about my father calling me worthless. I thought about my mother cutting me off. I thought about Kyle smirking on that couch, and I felt nothing. No anger, no vindication, just a quiet certainty that I'd made the right choice. Kyle's wedding was October 8th. I flew into San Francisco 3 days early and stayed at a hotel in the city. I'd bought new clothes, not flashy, just well-made, a custom suit from a tailor Marcus recommended, Italian leather shoes, a nice watch, though nothing ostentatious. I wanted to look successful without looking like I was trying too hard. The night before the wedding, I almost chickened out. What was I trying to prove? That I'd made it? That they'd been wrong? Did I need their validation after everything? But something pushed me to go anyway. Maybe closure? Maybe curiosity? Maybe just the desire to walk into that room and show them I was still standing. The wedding was at a vineyard in Napa. Beautiful location. Rolling hills covered in grapevines. Perfect October weather. I drove up the morning of the ceremony in a rented Mercedes. Nothing too flashy, just nice enough to signal success. I arrived about 20 minutes before the ceremony was set to start. The parking lot was already full. BMWs, Audis, a few Teslas. I parked and walked toward the venue. My heart was pounding. I hadn't seen my family in 5 years. 5 years of no contact, no birthdays, no holidays, nothing. I wondered if they'd even recognize me. I'd filled out since 23. Working out had become my stress relief during the hard years. I looked healthier, more confident, different. The ceremony was outdoors, overlooking the vineyard. White chairs arranged in rows, an arch decorated with flowers at the front. Guests were mingling, finding their seats. I hung back, watching from a distance. Then I saw them, my parents. My father looked older, more gray hair. My mother looked the same, elegant dress, pearl necklace. They were talking to other guests, smiling, playing the role of proud parents. Melissa was there too, talking on her phone, even at her brother's wedding. Some things never change. I took a deep breath and walked toward the seating area. A few people glanced at me, strangers. No one I recognized. I found a seat in the back row, far to the side. Not hiding exactly, just not announcing myself. The ceremony started. Kyle walked out with the officiant. He looked nervous, happy. Amanda came down the aisle. She looked beautiful. The ceremony was nice, traditional. They exchanged vows, kissed. Everyone applauded. I clamped along with everyone else. My brother had just gotten married, and I'd watched it happen from the shadows, like a ghost. The reception was in a large tent next to the vineyard. Round tables with white tablecloths, centerpieces of flowers and candles, a dance floor, a DJ, an open bar. Very nice, very expensive. I estimated my parents probably spent at least $80,000 on this wedding. Maybe more. I grabbed a drink from the bar and found a spot near the edge of the tent. I wasn't trying to hide anymore, but I wasn't seeking attention either. I was just existing in the space, waiting to see what would happen. Dinner was served. I didn't have an assigned seat, so I stood to the side, watching. Families laughed together. Friends hugged. Toasts were made. My father gave a speech about Kyle, about how proud he was, about how Kyle had always been focused and driven and successful. He talked about Kyle's engineering degree, his excellent job, his beautiful bride. He didn't mention me. Of course he didn't. As far as he was concerned, he only had 2 children now.
After dinner, people started mingling more. The dance floor opened up. The energy shifted from formal to celebratory. I was standing near the bar when I heard a voice behind me. Daniel. I turned. It was Melissa. She was staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. Her phone was actually lowered, which might have been the most shocking part. What are you doing here? I came to see Kyle get married. He's my brother. She blinked. Does mom and dad know you're here? Not yet. Do they know you're here? She looked nervously. This is going to cause a scene. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just have a drink and leave quietly. Before she could respond, someone else spotted me. A cousin. Eric, I think. He did a double take, then walked over. Daniel, holy shit, man. How are you? Where have you been? I gave him a brief, vague answer. Around. Working. He launched into catching me up on his life. Got married, had a kid, bought a house. Normal stuff. While we were talking, I saw my mother across the tent. She was talking to someone, but her eyes drifted over the crowd and landed on me. She froze. Her face went through several expressions. Shock, confusion, something that might have been anger. She said something to the person she was talking to and started walking toward me. Eric was still talking, oblivious. My mother reached us and her voice cut through. Daniel, what are you doing here? Eric looked between us, sensing tension. He made a quick excuse and walked away. Mom, you weren't invited. I know. Then why are you here? To see Kyle get married. You're not welcome here. You made that very clear 5 years ago. I'm not here to cause problems. I'm just here to witness my brother's wedding. Then I'll leave. Her face was tight. Your father is going to be very upset when he sees you. That's his problem, not mine. I wasn't trying to be confrontational, I said calmly, factually. But I saw her flinch anyway. She opened her mouth to say something else, but my father appeared beside her. He must have seen us talking. His face when he saw me was pure shock. You. What the hell are you doing here? Hello, Dad. Answer the question. I came to see Kyle get married. You're not welcome here. You disowned me, remember? So technically, you have no authority over whether I'm welcome or not. His face turned red. How dare you show your face here after what you did? What I did? I made a choice about my own life. You're the one who cut me off. Because you threw away your future for some ridiculous pipe dream. Did I? His eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe you were wrong about me. People were starting to notice the commotion. Heads were turning. My mother touched my father's arm. Richard, not here. Let's not make a scene. Too late for that. He was practically vibrating with anger. I heard you dropped out and crawled back to finish your degree. Is that what you heard? That's right. Took you long enough to come to your senses. I almost laughed. Who told you that? Does it matter? Actually, yes, because whoever told you that was lying. I never went back to school. His face shifted, confusion mixed with anger. Then what have you been doing for 5 years? Working. On what? That fantasy startup that was never going to work? It worked. What? The company. It worked. We built it, we grew it, and 3 weeks ago we sold it for $480 million. Silence. Complete, total silence. Not just from my parents, from everyone around us who was close enough to hear. My father's mouth was open. My mother looked like she'd been slapped. $480 million, my father repeated. That's right. My equity stake was 20%. You can do the math. My mother found her voice. You're lying. Why would I lie? I don't need anything from you. I don't need your approval. I don't need your money. I don't need your validation. I came here because Kyle is my brother and I wanted to see him get married. That's it. Melissa appeared next to our parents. I told you he was here. Her voice was faint. She had clearly heard everything. You sold your company? She asked. For $500 million? Just under. My father was shaking his head. No, you're making this up. I pulled out my phone, opened a news article from a tech publication. The headline read, Enterprise software startup acquired for $480 million. I showed him the screen. His eyes scanned it. I watched his face as he read my name listed as one of the co-founders and principal stakeholders. That could be anyone. It's not. Google my name, Daniel Reeves, and the company name. You'll find interviews, photos, press releases, everything. My mother grabbed my father's arm. "Richard, maybe we should sit down." He shook her off, still staring at me. "If this is true, and I'm still not convinced it is, then you owe this family an apology." I almost choked. An apology for what? For making us think you'd failed? For letting us worry? You told me I was worthless and cut me out of your life. I didn't make you think anything. You assumed I'd failed because you wanted me to fail. You wanted to be right. And when I proved you wrong, instead of being happy for me, you're angry that I didn't come crawling back to tell you. Tears were forming in my mother's eyes now. We're your parents. We deserve to know. You stopped being my parents when you disowned me. I built this life without you. I don't owe you updates or explanations or anything else. The tent had gone completely silent now. Everyone was watching this family drama unfold. Kyle looked mortified. "Daniel, maybe we should talk about this somewhere private. It's your wedding, Kyle. I don't want to ruin it. I'll leave." "No, wait." He looked torn. I need to process this. You've been gone for 5 years. We thought you'd failed and were too ashamed to contact us. That's what they told me anyway." I looked at my parents. "Is that what you told him? That I'd failed and was too ashamed to come back?" My mother looked at the ground. "We thought that's what happened." "You thought, or you hoped? Because there's a difference." Melissa spoke up. "For what it's worth, I tried to find you online a couple years ago. I saw some articles about your company. I knew you were doing something, but I didn't say anything because I figured if you wanted us to know, you'd reach out." "Thank you for that, I guess." My father's anger was shifting to something else now. Desperation, maybe. "So you've been successful this whole time, and you just let us think you'd failed?" "I let you think whatever you wanted to think. I was busy building a company. I didn't have time to worry about whether you approved." Kyle ran his hand through his hair. "This is insane. My wife and I are standing at our wedding reception while my brother, whom my family disowned 5 years ago, just showed up and announced he's worth $500 million. When you put it that way, it does sound pretty crazy. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come." "Actually," Kyle said slowly, "I'm glad you did. I've missed you, man, even if this is the weirdest possible reunion. I've missed you too. That's why I came. I wanted to see you happy." He looked at our parents, then back at me. "Can we talk, just you and me?" "Sure." We walked away from the crowd, toward the edge of the vineyard. Behind us, I could hear the murmur of people gossiping. This was going to be the talk at the wedding. "Sorry about that." "Don't be." Kyle stopped and turned to face me. "Is it really true? All of it? Every word? Show me." I pulled up more articles on my phone. Interviews I'd done with business publications, photos from company events, the acquisition announcement. He scrolled through it all, his eyes getting wider. "You're a multi-millionaire." "Technically, yes." "Holy shit." "Yeah." "And you didn't tell us because we disowned you? Would you have told us, in my position?" He thought about that. "Probably not." "I'm sorry about that, by the way. The disowning thing. I should have stood up for you. You were 20 years old and fresh out of college. I don't blame you. I blame myself. I should have been a better brother. It's in the past. But for what it's worth, I really am happy for you. The job, the wedding, Amanda. You've built a good life. Thanks. So have you, apparently." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" Kyle said. "Sure." "Why come back now? Why not just stay away?" "Honestly, I wanted to see if it still hurt, being around you all. And does it? Not as much as I thought it would. I've built my own life, my own family, in a way. My business partners, my friends. I don't need validation from mom and dad anymore, but you're still my brother.
He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'd like to be in your life again, if you're open to that. I'd like that too. But I'm not interested in reconciling with mom and dad. Not after tonight. Not after how they reacted. That's fair. He looked back toward the reception. I should probably get back. Amanda's gonna have questions. She seems nice. She is. You'll like her. Maybe we can all have dinner sometime. I'd like that. We walked back toward the tent. The crowd had dispersed somewhat, but people were still whispering. My parents were sitting at a table looking shell-shocked. Melissa was on her phone, probably Googling me to verify everything. Kyle went back to Amanda, who immediately started asking him questions. I headed for the exit. I'd seen what I came to see, said what I needed to say. It was time to go. Daniel. My mother's voice stopped me. I turned. She was standing a few feet away, my father beside her. Can we talk? I don't think there's anything to say. Please, just 5 minutes. I looked at my watch. I've got a flight to catch. That was a lie, but I wanted an out. Your father and I, we made a mistake. She glanced at him. He looked like admitting that physically pained him. We shouldn't have cut you off. We should have supported your decision, even if we disagreed with it. You're right. You should have. We were wrong about you. You were. And we'd like the chance to make things right. Some things can't be made right. They can only be learned from. So learn from this. But don't expect me to pretend the last 5 years didn't happen. We're not asking you to pretend. We're asking for another chance. To be part of your life. I thought about that. 5 years ago, I would have done anything to hear them say those words. But now they felt empty. You called me worthless. You disowned me. You told me I'd failed without even checking to see if that was true. And tonight, when I told you I'd succeeded, your first reaction wasn't pride or joy. It was anger that I hadn't told you sooner. That doesn't sound like people who actually care about me. That sounds like people who are embarrassed they were wrong. My mother flinched. That's not fair. It's completely fair. I'm not angry anymore. I'm really not. But I'm also not interested in a relationship built on obligation or guilt. If you want to be in my life, you need to understand that I don't need you. I wanted you, but I don't need you. What does that mean? My father asked. It means if we build something going forward, it's because we both want to, not because we're supposed to be family. You don't get to claim me now that I am successful when you rejected me when I needed you most. That's a painful truth to sit with, but it's the truth nonetheless. I could see tears running down my mother's face now. We do want to be in your life. Then prove it. Don't call me asking for anything. Don't brag to your friends about your successful son. Don't try to take credit for my accomplishments. Just be present, be genuine, and maybe we can build something real. My father's voice was quieter now. Can we do that? Can we start over? We can try, but I'm not making any promises, and I'm not going to pretend the past didn't happen. Fair enough. I gave them a small nod and walked away. This time, no one stopped me. I drove back to San Francisco in silence. My phone buzzed with texts, Kyle asking if I was okay, Melissa asking if we could talk sometime, a few numbers I didn't recognize, probably other family members who'd been at the wedding. I didn't respond to any of them. I needed time to process. That night, I sat in my hotel room and thought about everything that had happened. I'd walked into that wedding wanting to prove something, to show them I'd succeeded, to make them regret disowning me. But standing there, watching their reactions, I realized something. I didn't need their regret. I didn't need their apologies. I'd already won. Not because I had money, but because I'd built a life I was proud of. A life I'd chosen. A life that didn't require their approval. The money was nice. The success was satisfying.
But the real victory was standing in front of them and feeling nothing. No anger, no hurt, just a quiet confidence that I'd made the right choices. A few weeks later, I met Kyle and Amanda for dinner in the city. It was awkward at first. 5 years is a long time, but slowly we found our rhythm again. We talked about his job, his marriage, his plans. I talked about what I was doing next. I had started angel investing in other startups, helping young entrepreneurs who reminded me of myself. Over the following months, Kyle and I rebuilt our relationship. It wasn't the same as it had been. Too much time had passed, but it was something. It was real. My parents tried to reach out several times. Emails, texts, calls. I responded occasionally, but kept them at arm's length. They'd have to earn their way back into my life. That wasn't going to happen quickly or easily. Melissa and I had coffee once. She apologized for not standing up for me, for going along with our parents. I appreciated that. We weren't close, but we were cordial. A year after Kyle's wedding, I was invited to Thanksgiving. Kyle was hosting. He specifically said our parents would be there and he'd understand if I didn't want to come. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to skip it, avoid the awkwardness, but another part of me was curious. I wanted to see if anything had really changed. I went. The dinner was tense at first. My father barely spoke to me. My mother tried too hard asking questions about my life in a way that felt performative. But as the evening went on, something shifted. Kyle told a story about something stupid we'd done as kids. Everyone laughed. The tension eased somewhat. By dessert, we were having actual conversations. Not deep ones, not healing ones, but normal family conversations. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was something. As I drove home that night, I realized that the story didn't have a clean ending. There was no moment where everything was fixed, no tearful reconciliation where all was forgiven. Just small steps, slow progress, cautious rebuilding. My relationship with my parents would never be the what it could have been. That door had closed. But maybe we could build something new, something honest, something that acknowledged the past without being defined by it. 2 years after the wedding, I was having lunch with Marcus, one of my former co-founders. We'd stayed close after the acquisition. He asked about my family. I told him about the slow reconciliation, the careful boundaries, the progress and setbacks. He listened, then said something that stuck with me.
You know what's interesting? You spent 5 years proving them wrong. But the real growth wasn't in the success. It was in realizing you didn't need them to acknowledge it. He was right. The company, the money, the success, those were all great. But the real win was building a life I was proud of, with or without their approval. I'd walked into Kyle's wedding thinking I needed to prove something. I'd walked out realizing I'd already proven everything that mattered. To myself. 3 years after the wedding, my relationship with my family had settled into something stable. We had dinner once a month, celebrated major holidays together. My parents had stopped trying to take credit for my success and started just being present. It wasn't perfect. Some wounds run too deep to fully heal, but it was enough. Kyle and I were close again. Real close, not just obligatory family close. He'd even come to me for career advice when he was considering a job change. That meant more to me than any apology. One evening, my father and I were alone after a family dinner. Everyone else had left. We sat on his back porch drinking whiskey, watching the sunset. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I owe you a real apology. Not the one I gave you at Kyle's wedding. A real one. Okay? I was terrified when you dropped out. Terrified you'd fail and blame me for not stopping you. Terrified you'd succeed and prove I'd been wrong. Either way, I lost, so I cut you off first to protect myself from having to face either outcome. That's honest. It's also cowardly. I know that now. I let my fear of being wrong override my love for my son, and by the time I realized what I'd done, 5 years had passed and I didn't know how to fix it. You don't fix it. You just do better going forward.
He nodded slowly. I am proud of you, not just because you're successful, but because you did it your way, because you trusted yourself when no one else did, because you built something meaningful. That takes courage I never had. Thank you. That means something. We sat in comfortable silence after that. It wasn't forgiveness, not completely, but it was understanding. And sometimes that's enough. Now, at 32, I look back on that day my father called me worthless and told me I was disowned, and I see it differently. At the time, it felt like the end of the world, like I'd lost everything. But really, it was the beginning of me learning to trust myself, to bet on myself, to build something on my own terms without waiting for permission or approval from people who didn't believe in me. The success was nice, the money was nice, but the real prize was discovering that I didn't need their validation to know my worth. I'd found that within myself, and once you find that, no one can ever take it away. Kyle's wedding wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving them wrong, though I'd be lying if I said that didn't feel good. It was about showing up as the person I'd become, the person I'd built through 5 years of hard work and self-doubt and refusing to give up. I showed up not as the worthless failure they'd expected, but as someone who'd taken the hardest path and made it work anyway, someone who'd been rejected and survived, someone who'd been told he'd never amount to anything and decided that was just noise. So yes, I showed up at my brother's wedding, and yes, they were shocked. And yes, it felt satisfying to watch them realize how wrong they'd been. But the real satisfaction came from knowing that whether they acknowledged it or not, I'd already won. Not against them, but for myself. And in the end, that's the only victory that actually matters.